Well, thank you, Charles, from our Enugu Center. Always a great pleasure having you hold the ground there in Enugu and finding us worthy to join you every morning at this time, 10 o'clock. If you look at your watch, this is the Abuja leg of our breakfast show, Signature Morning. My name is Mwabweze Njoku. Let me welcome you. Now, I promised you 2 days ago that for about a week running, we will be interrogating issues on efforts by the House of Representatives to amend the Constitution. They have 39 bills in the House, all of which seek to amend the Constitution. Yesterday, we looked at the efforts, the proposal being made to establish an independent national agency for the conduct of local government elections. And I raised the question, are we not over-centralizing in a federalism? Are we not making a nonsense of the other tiers of government? Are we not saying we have no confidence in them? They cannot organize anything. And therefore, a federal institution, a central institution should take on that responsibility and organize election for everybody. My guest yesterday said, arising from the history of failures and betrayals of the process by state independent electoral commissions, there was some common sense, there was some good reason to want to try something else. And I asked him, are we not throwing away the baby and the bathwater? Well, let's leave that for yesterday. For this morning, we are still continuing the interrogation of those bills. And this morning, we are going to be looking at the effort to have a bill for the conduct of all the elections in one day. Presidential election, Senate, House of Representatives, governorship, state assembly elections, all in one day. What does the Constitution provide us at now? What are we trying to amend? Why do we want to amend? What is the goal? Have we tried every other thing? These questions will arise this morning. And my guest is Charles Ude. Charles Ude is a lawyer and a public issues analyst. Let me also tell you quickly that Charles Ude is a UK-trained lawyer. His practice out of this country, he says to me, every well-trained lawyer is a constitutional lawyer. So let us look at the Constitution. Let's look at the process. Charles, you are welcome to the program.
Thank you so much, and thank you, viewers.
Charles, let me begin by asking you a question. Our elections today are staggered. The presidential, the governorship, Senate, blah, blah, blah. Does the Constitution specify the staggering of elections? Or is it the agency, that is the Independent National Electoral Commission, that has been given the powers to determine how, when, the timetable for elections?
Yes, you're right. It's the Constitution that made it possible for the electoral body, that's INEC, to choose and determine days they want to conduct these elections. And those provisions, the powers are derived from sections 76(1), 1171, 1321, and section 179, and also in support of the Electoral Act 2022. So the INEC as a body have the power to say on so day we will do a particular election, be it presidential, be it gubernatorial, or any other one. So that's how it is.
Does INEC, by that provision of the Constitution, have the powers to collapse all elections in one day?
No, they will have, the Constitution will need to be amended to achieve that, yes.
Okay.
Yes. They need to amend the Constitution.
That's what they call cause and effect.
Yes.
For the House of Representatives to start thinking about changing the Constitution to now conduct all elections in one day, there must be a reason. And one of the reasons being canvassed now is that there's always a bandwagon effect. When you conduct election, for instance, the presidential election, first, whichever party has won that election every other election seems to be just a matter of queuing behind that party, with politicians saying, I don't want to be in the opposition. I mean, I should be part of it. Is it the fault of the constitution or the fault of the politicians?
It's a combination of several factors. We don't have adequate voters' education here in Nigeria. Ordinary people don't even know the ideologies or what each party represents or what they intend to offer if they win the election. So you have those with money buy these votes most time. So it's not a question of, it's not done to really achieve anything. It's the manipulation of the whole system that we should be more concerned about. So that's my major concern.
Yeah, let's look at manipulation of the whole system. Yeah. If elections are staggered and a politician needs to buy votes for the presidential election and the House of Representatives, the National Assembly, which are conducted in one day, the governorship, he needs to buy, that's money he's spending, isn't it? The state legislature, he needs to buy, that's money being spent. The local government elections, he needs to buy. In other words, it looks more expensive buying these votes in a staggered election that it looks if the election is conducted one day. Do you think that the costs of buying votes is one of the considerations of the House of Representatives in collapsing these elections in one day?
I don't even buy into any of those reasons. All the reasons they have so far
advanced.
I don't agree with them. They said it will
reduce the cost of elections.
It will increase voters, enhancement of voters, and then that it will decrease security. Isn't it? But let me draw your attention to something. Recently, I think it was in November 2023, we had elections in Imo.
Yes.
Bayelsa and Kogi State. Only 3 states in Nigeria. How did that work?
Scandalous. That's my word.
There's only 3 states. Were they able to manage it? No. So it doesn't matter whether you conduct the whole election on a particular day. There are fundamental issues that we must address.
Before we come to those fundamental issues, I want to take a line from what you just said. In other words, this effort to have all the elections in one day is a road to nowhere.
Well, if they do the right thing, yes.
It could lead to something.
It could lead to somewhere.
Now look at what are the challenges?
Let's look at the whole elections as a project. That's where we have to start. That this is a project. We need to deliver good and credible elections. You now set up what we call a process in place. The process talks about the intention. It identifies the task that needs to be done. And then it ends there. You now bring a procedure. At that level, you assign these tasks to individuals. Then you have these stakeholders who have inherited this task to execute. And then it's easily monitored. It's monitored. But how would that work? It will come from how you appoint the people. If I'm your brother, you know quite well I don't have the capacity. All you know that I'm a professor of political science. Then you say, come and hear this. It is what other political scientists have been doing. You're failing from that moment.
In other words, we need a competent, knowledgeable person in election management matters to head the agency that oversees elections. Am I right?
Absolutely. There are experts, there are people, that's their trend. They've been trained in those areas. If we don't have them, we can go and look for them. After all, our national team, we got a foreign coach. So there's nothing wrong if we identify someone, whether in South Africa, where we can bring that person. Then to work with such experts, you need lawyers, well versed in constitutional and electoral laws. their role there is for compliance. Then from that perspective, you now move into the other aspect.
Yes.
Security, which is always a big issue. Security. You look for retired military, police, the experts in security areas. Who will deal with the issues of those who will attempt to rig elections or cause violence on the day? Another important aspect,
yes,
is the IT and data analyst. Last election, we talked so much about givers. IREV. Did it work? Tell me,
no.
It work?
It worked. It worked very well.
Yeah.
It worked very well. The challenge was that when the figures for the Senate and House of Representatives were to be uploaded, the machines worked as well as they should work. But the moment the figures for the presidential election were to be uploaded, unintentionally, the same machines in the same day, within the same hour, developed glitch. That was...
Well, what's glitch? That's the problem. We use those words glitch. See, a place like INEC, they should have dedicated servers. Highly built data system,
which is available.
Now, if one goes down, then the backup kicks
there was backup
immediately.
There was backup.
I have visited their office
because the presidential figures have a way of undermining even backups and creating glitch.
No. Say they need money. They need to invest in servers. They need to invest in backup. They need money because for them to manage the cyber security, transmission of results in real time, because these are crucial aspects of these elections. They need money. I have gone to some of these agencies. I'm telling you, they don't have. If you go like, let me just FRL. No, not FRS. Federal Road Safety. You want to
FRS,
do a new license. You have to do another thumbprint. NIN, the same thing. Why? How are they storing their? They don't have the storage system. It's expensive. So these are where they should invest. Get the right experts. Then you're ready to work. And then, following what we're saying, you now need media people. Their role is very important because they have to deliver every message. These are things these are people, these aspects, these are offices that should be under whoever that's going to manage.
That expert who's going to in election management.
Yes, they will have offices. This is for their lawyers. This is for people who understand these things. If you put all these things in place, then we are good to go. It doesn't matter whether we do all the elections the same day or next day, because I gave you an example of these 3 states. They are not able to call their results same day. In fact, there's some local government they use extra days. The issue that it will result cost. What cost? We should even be thinking of introducing early voting. If we have early voting system in place, that means that we must have an efficient NIPOST, a postal system that can be reliable. Otherwise, how will you achieve that? So this is possible if they are really serious about it. It can happen.
I want to say, as we were talking, I was writing down a number of items. The appointment of that election manager. You know what you just said?
Yeah.
That politicians should commit rank suicide. Do you know why? Their interest is protected in the appointment of the boss of the independent election commission in Nigeria. And you're asking them, let go of that which feeds their political hunger. I'm not asking them to hang themselves.
Like I said to you earlier on, if you need somebody to work with you here, you want somebody who will
deliver.
Yeah, help you take out some of the pressures. we can't keep doing the same thing when it's not working. Sometimes people say, oh, I'm not trying to demean anybody. He's a professor of political science. That does not qualify you to manage an electoral
Yeah, but
body.
I'm even pointing at something. Because you see, it is like the debate. Yes.
And then you now start zoning it. That the last man that came was from the southeast. Now it's the turn of the north. It's the turn of all those nonsense we must do away with and seek for who is better positioned to do this job. The presidency, they have the power to call for, set up an organization or even go to any of these agencies. Say, please, recruit for us. Give us the people.
Yeah, but I just said to you that you're asking the presidency to let go of a lever with which it determines the outcome of elections.
I don't want to say that it will be it's not in the interest of any president to come into office through a wrong process.
Yeah, I do say that much.
Do you understand?
I do say that.
So I'm sure, if you're a good president and you're delivering, you're working on your mandate, you have nothing to be afraid of. Therefore, you want to leave legacies, and part of it will be that under my term, yes, Nigeria was able to solve all her electoral
problems.
Yeah.
Okay, the appointment of a competent election manager to head INEC. That is step number one. The lawyers who understand the Constitution and the Electoral Act, they should be there to insist and monitor compliance. You are a lawyer.
Yes, absolutely.
Pardon me to take up issues with you. It is these same lawyers who help the politicians to find loopholes in the law to enable them undermine the process and determine the outcome. It is like asking me to give the yams to the goats for safekeeping.
No, I'm not sure I agree with what you have said, honestly. Yeah, part of the problem I have with my colleagues, some of my colleagues, lawyers, is that on issues like that, they are very emotional. They get involved at a personal level. You even see some of them come on air and say the wrong thing just to win favors. The court, like I have been able to read some judgments, and even when I speak to some of my colleagues, I will find out that they've been arguing on this without reading those judgments. So I'll send copies to them. Say, please, try and read this and let me see whether your opinion will change. And then we have, here is public perception at times. They say this guy is a great lawyer. And then when they go to court, the judge will try his best. But I wish our judges will be more brave to see this way they call it. Sometimes there are cases that are struck off or dismissed, and I don't agree with them at times. I said, why can't you ask the people to go and refile? You cannot come out and say, oh, there's nowhere in our rules this thing. Those are discretional powers a judge can use, and nobody will question it. It will become his judgment. It will become a ruling. Say another. Say, good. No, I'm not going to deal with these technicalities because you didn't file this thing. Go back and do this. You take extra things. So why will you now rely for one little, you dismiss an entire case and then send them to?
Yeah, because it is the same lawyers I just said. You're asking them now to keep watch over the yams.
The lawyers, I can't be highly critical of them because some of them are paid to do a particular job. So they are conscious, they decide how they handle.
Okay, that's not a matter of conscience, it's a matter of you are doing a client a favor. But let me just ask, because I'm interested in this second part of lawyers being there. Do you think the Nigerian Bar Association will play any role here in making sure that the quality of lawyers? Remember, you and I are trying to create a structure that will work. It's not a structure in effect. The first thing you have said this morning is, for the system to work, it doesn't require really collapsing all the elections in one day. It requires getting a competent, knowledgeable election manager to head that agency INEC. Second, lawyers that will monitor, who understand the Constitution and the Electoral Act to monitor compliance. And that was why I raised the issue. These same lawyers are asking to stay there to monitor compliance. It's a political process, and they know that there's big money in it if you're able to undermine the process. They are the same people who are helping the politicians undercut the process and succeed in the courts. Is it the same people you're asking to go and look after over the yams? That was my question. And I said, can we solve the problem by using the Nigerian Bar Association, the umbrella body of the lawyers?
Say the lawyers are part of the Nigerian system.
Yeah, yes,
they're not different. We must first tell ourselves the truth if we need to move forward. I don't see what Nigerian Bar Association can do, really. If you get if INEC hires a competent lawyer, somebody who's properly trained, and they said, this is your job, they allow him to hire lawyers that work with him. It's difficult at times, depending on what you want to do, because if you want to talk about the legal lawyers in Nigeria,
yes,
that means that you need to overhaul. Now, for some people, it's late. They can't go back to law school. I'm sorry, you have to go back to the law school and reorganize everything at that level. All right.
But that's not what we're looking at now.
No, that's not what we're looking at. At least to say in future, you can produce this quality or grade of lawyers. Because there's this madness here, I call it madness. Every little thing has to go to court. First, no way of trying to resolve the issue or settle it. That's what creates even the pressure on the court. Elsewhere, the court is seen as the last resort. So it's we have people who can head it, but I don't believe
that it will need the Nigerian Bar Association.
No, there are lawyers, and I don't believe it is there are some high-profile lawyers that are very good. You know them.
Okay.
And then there's some others. So you need to get people who can do this. You can even ask a serving judge to leave the bench and come and do this whole job. Yes, come and head the INEC legal department for the purposes of these elections.
And we have identified the judge as a person of integrity.
Yes.
Now, the next important unit you mentioned in this structure we are trying to build is security experts. And you said you could take maybe from retired military officers, some from retired intelligence officers, some retired police officers.
Yes.
I just sat back and I said, a retired police officer, a retired military officer. I'm not losing hope on everything. In any case, it will be somebody whose career is no longer at stake. And therefore, when he does the right thing, he knows that his career is not going to be threatened.
That's one point.
Thank you. Other points?
Other points are that we are talking about senior officers. Like, forgive me to use the new sole administrator for Rivers State.
Yes.
Even I understand he was a good officer.
Okay.
Now, when you have people like that or other officers, then when these politicians come with their security men,
he gives them orders out, my friend.
They can work. He will understand who they will reach. Is it the IGO police? He can also call them. He will know the sort of security he needs. Because when you say, it takes some parts of Nigeria and the riverine areas, we are not able to move our things, quickly, because it doesn't make sense. They know the sort of delivery people they will use, the kind of security they will provide. Even if they deliver those things a week ahead, they can also secure the environment. They will secure it.
Charles, I want you to close your eyes and see how vast this country is, how complicated the environment is. There are some parts of northern Nigeria you wouldn't believe that are so riverine. You won't believe it. That reaching there is quite a task. Some parts of even Kogi and Benue State here, that for you to cross is a task. And such locations require institutional capacity and not necessarily 2, 3, 4, 10 security experts. I'm saying so because even with the use of the military, the use of the Air Force, with the use of the police as institutions, we're still having challenges today. How do you think this security expert, how will he be calling the shots? How will he be organizing it?
They have easier access. They can determine the risk.
Okay.
After all, how do we move our crude oil from some of these, from the locations? You've been to some of the rigs. How? But because it's something that's very important, every security is provided to ensure safe delivery of the products. So we're not doing the elections every day.
How do we move our currency up and down?
Yes, we're not doing the elections. It's not an every day. It's just once in 4 years. So we can deploy everything. Get in experts, spend the money. Because if you have a credible election, then the country will progress from it. So why so we should not it's not even the amendment, it's not my issue. You can amend it for as much as you like. But we must have this process, things I've called process and procedures in place, with stakeholders being assigned specific roles. So if you don't deliver, you're held accountable. Why is it that every time we hear there's election here, this never happened, they were not able to deliver 2 days counting, nobody's fired. No, nothing happens. They remain there and tell you the next election that this is the budget they need. You go to National Assembly, approve it for them, and then they repeat the same mistake. We shouldn't go on like that.
Now, the last item in this structure is the IT. And in this IT, I'm going to raise some issues. But first, let me crack the same joke I've been cracking in the course of this conversation. The IT. At the last election, as you observed, there was so much noise about IREV. There's so much noise about electronics and all that. And Nigerians were very hopeful that things will work out. They did not work out. We had to go to court to try to add and remove to be able to get the figures. What kind of IT can solve our problem?
See, I'm very passionate about IT. You know, law is a second profession for me. I came into law later. I was one of the first, I can say correctly, 500 people that held both the complete suite of Microsoft and Cisco's. I worked at the European Space Agency, and then I was at Heinz. At Heinz, the budget for the IT department before I left was about 800 million pounds. Yes, I've been here. They are not properly equipped. They don't have the resources, and of course, some of the experts are not there. They need to, if they do this amendment, they need to overhaul the whole place. Have proper experts. Look at how they can, look at the recent equipment. Because when I talk to some people, they say, "Oh, we save on the cloud." They say, "You need the experts. You need they need good project managers even within the IT system. They need database analysts. They need a network. They need everything. They need money. It's important because if they don't put money, they can't say nothing.
I think somebody can still say those who pay peanuts, they have monkeys.
Absolutely, So they need it. They need to fund them properly, and otherwise this can't work for next election, next 2027. No.
Okay. Yeah. Now I said I will raise that's the first question on this IT. The second question on this IT is, do we have the backbone, the infrastructure? Because some members of the House of Representatives, when the debate was on for electronic voting, that this tendency to vote in the ballot boxes, go to a collation center for manual confirmation and collating, move to the local government headquarters for local government collation, move to state headquarters for state collation, that all those are designed to help manipulation, and that this is where the crisis is coming. As you vote, it reads and it counts. You don't need to carry the paper. But do we have the infrastructure to carry this process through?
So what I would suggest is that issues like this should call for public hearing, funding of INEC. They should just take out a day, call for public hearing. We have experts all over the world. They will review, they will design a system. But when you engage people as contractors, their main interest is how they can go to China and bring cheap materials. Then you take it to National Assembly. We have some members are interested in it as constituency projects or whatever. Then it will fail. Do you understand? So we need to look out, seek for help. We have Nigerians, doing very well in this area. They don't need you to pay them anything. They will give you the proposal. They will even help vendors, help you get vendors that will come and store some of this equipment. And then you decide how long it will take you to pay them. Yeah, you need them.
Okay. We're only running half the hour. I'm not taking a break yet,
Yes, sir.
because let me look at the bottom line, Charles.
Okay.
What we have seemed to have agreed now is one, the first argument is that this effort to amend the constitution is not really very necessary.
Yeah.
Staggering elections is not the challenge.
Yeah, challenge.
Bringing all the elections in one day is not an answer.
Yeah, right, yeah. So,
We should look at the agency that organizes elections in Nigeria.
yeah.
That agency, is it being headed and managed by the appropriate persons?
Yes.
2, that agency, does it have a mechanism for causing politicians to comply with the rules of the game? So, if there's no non-compliance, you are sanctioned immediately. So, those who don't want to go to hell, stay away from sin. The next thing is to have an organized and well-managed security system. And here you are saying, don't even use 7 officers.
No.
Because they could, for fear of their own careers,
Yes.
want to obey the politicians. Use a retired person
To head.
who knows that
Yeah.
as he does the right thing, no politician has anything over him.
Yeah.
They can't fire him. If they fire him, he goes home and continues collecting his pension. And he is knowledgeable enough to relate with the military, to relate with the police, to relate with the intelligence, and to deliver on the needs of this election.
Provide his own security assessment.
Thank you very much. And then you need a well laid out IT. I have raised the question
media.
whether we have, and then I'm coming to the media. And then I was going to ask, in the course of debates on banking in the House of Representatives, some members said, look, there are no telecommunication facilities in our areas. In fact, some of them said, we use the services from Cameroon or services from Niger. So we can't connect to Nigeria. This conversation will require the services of these telecommunication companies. You still think that we can go ahead with it as long as we can make investments in it? Okay. Now, having arrived at this, Charles, where are we going to get these people? Let me tell you why I'm asking that question with my eyes open. Every effort has been made in this country to rebuild Nigeria police before my very eyes. Every police IG that exists and a new one comes in, the language has always been to improve on this, to provide this, a clear indication that last regime was a failure. On Monday, I'm going to quote some words of the president, which shows that something he had just called to change failed. And that language has been consistent. With this structure you and I are designing this morning, from where will you get the men to man these things? From Nigeria or from the moon?
No, some are here, some are outside the country.
You believe that?
Absolutely, there. But they are neglected. Nobody talks to them. Nobody is interested in them because they already have an agenda. If we want this country to move, we have other people. They are there. Even when you said some people say they are receiving network from
Yes.
Cameroon or something, we have Nigerians that will design a platform. We have them. We just to engage with them. The government know we're there. By the way, it's like the issue of police you raised. Why would the police, this is one of the countries globally, that the police earn less than the army?
You are raising a different matter now for this conversation. Well, I've been talking with Charles Udeh. We are looking at another bill being introduced in the House of Representatives to amend the Constitution, and that bill is asking the members to pass a law to amend the Constitution to cause all elections to be held in one day. We take a break and we return and we continue the conversation. Don't go away. Yes, you are still here with us, and my guest is also still in the studio, Charles Udeh. He's a lawyer, and as I've always said, he has a lot of interest in public issues, and we'll keep conversing on them. Charles, yesterday, as I said to you, we were looking at the ISEC, that is the State Independent Electoral Commissions. From this conversation, the National Assembly seems to reason that the Independent National Electoral Commission, the way it is functioning now, has not succeeded. Shakespeare was who said, "The fault is not in our stars, but in ourselves, that we are underlings." From analysis, the fault is not with the institution, but with the structure and the personnel that have run the process over time. In other words, you don't think there's need for a change in law. Let me draw attention to something. The president appoints the head of INEC. The Constitution provides for that, for the president to appoint the heads of INEC. The president appoints commissioners of INEC. In this new scenario we are painting, who will appoint them?
No, the most important thing is who is going to head the INEC, the agency itself. And before I forget, I did not talk about you need also a public administrator.
A public administrator
who will manage the bureaucracy and the policies.
That
will be number 6.
No, please let a public administrator. Please, we are going to dwell on that because I don't understand.
Yes.
A public administrator.
Yeah.
Do you want to elaborate on that?
No,
and then the media.
Yeah, the public administrator.
Yes. What will
their major role there will be the bureaucracies and some of the policies. They have to oversee it. It's like, you have to fix, make it fit, and that's the only way it can work. So you first get the management expert. It doesn't matter whether we go to Ghana and get somebody or anywhere where they have history of good elections. We should forget this idea that this is this. Do you understand? Get competent person. Then he will now sit down with the people and then they plan it. Who is going to head the legal? Who is going to head the media? Who is this IT person? Who is going to be the public administrator? This is how things work. I hate to use outside examples. NHS in UK, they had this history of the CMD. Whoever that was in charge was a medical doctor. But after a while, they said, no, we must depart from it. They now started hiring people with business background, not doctors.
Purely management. To run the system.
For success. So we cannot come here and say, oh, political.
Yeah, but I see why I want you to address the matter is the president appoints the head of INEC. In this our new romance, who will be the appointer of this expert in electoral management?
The president, yes, he has the powers to appoint, but they are people.
You need to let him use a process
There are
of
people that
selection.
this man said, okay, I trust these people. That's the man said, please, I need somebody. You can't go, oh, who is the most senior person in INEC, for example? He's been failing. So why do you now, assuming the first person inside, then you reward them? You make some of them commissioners. Why don't you clean the place? You're talking about going to set up a new agency to manage local government elections. What for? It's a smaller election. Yes, it is. So you don't need that. So let him ask some of these agencies, international, maybe KPMG, any of them. Say, please, I need an expert in this area. Let them go and recruit for us. Let them hire them. Or if they search around, they will have people here. You need people that are honest. You need people that are passionate, that love this country. Because part of the problem here is that people don't love this country. Most people. They talk about they have no other country to go, but the actions doesn't reflect that. You know, if you're a governor in this country or this, what is your best interest? The welfare and security of the people? Are they doing it? You know, and most of them will win elections anyway. Because if you make it very straightforward, make it nice, do the right thing, the right people, those who are not qualified will not step out. You know? Yes, I must say in 2019, I did run for Senate in Abia North. Was that an election? Even the same INEC, after I had seen my voting center, weeks later they changed it. I had to go far from where I was supposed to vote. So some of these things are deliberate. But if you have people who you've called them, like this is an urgent assignment, help us to deliver this country. Let's work as they rescue this country. And you get the right people to head the legal, head the media, head the, they work. Spend money on our IT department. Go there. I don't know what is there. Last time I went there, I met somebody who was then director of IT. I didn't see anything in that office. I didn't see it. I looked at their server room for such an agency. So spending money on Beavers, IREF, all those things, they are secondary. Yeah,
well, but they hyped it, and all of us believed, and that something significant was going to happen.
Those things were ordered from China or somewhere, isn't it?
I don't want to know where.
I'm just like
just a minute.
You know.
Do you know that this conversation this morning? Let us assume that we are holding it with some members of House of Representatives who are going to pass this law, if they are going to pass a law, who are going to refuse to pass this law and make the changes we are suggesting this morning. Can you look at them closely and ask yourself whether they be willing to make these changes that you're suggesting? Because the situation as it is favors them, brings them into that office and keeps them there. The failings of INEC is their success. What are you recommending this morning? Asking them to cut short their own successes? Is that if you were the man benefiting from the situation, would you, out of the love for the country, decide to undermine your own successes?
No.
These are politicians the Nigerian way.
No, there are some of them that really, they love this country and they're working to achieve that. Do you understand? You can see from their programs, from the bills, they are doing, you know, people like Ned Walker, they are doing very well. You know, his bills are just public oriented, not from selfish perspective. That's true, you know. How many of these things they are talking about, amendments, are being done on behalf of their constituents? that the people in their constituency have called them, say, please, I think you should do this
For us.
for us.
In our interest.
No, it's not for, it's just selfishness. Because if they're not selfish, to some extent, then they will look at where's the problem. Is the problem that will do, how will you save money? They are saying cost effective. How will you save money?
Yeah, as I'm looking at my watch, I said,
how
conclude this conversation.
To have an efficient, how will you save money?
Yeah, let me tell you how they save money.
Yes.
And that's the conversation.
Yeah.
Every election that is conducted is a repeat of a process. So, if the presidential election, which is nationwide, you need the same number of policemen at a cost. Logistics at a cost. Ballot papers at a cost. Storage of those ballot papers at a cost. Working of your systems and transportation at a cost. And you are repeating these costs, presidential and national assembly, governorship and state elections, local government. You are tripling that cost. Whereas the same cost once, and one day you are given maybe 3, 4, 5 ballot papers. I don't know how they are going to do it. Senate, you take. House of Representatives, you take. Governorship, you take. State Assembly, you take. And you drop. So one cost, and we're saving so many billions.
Okay, let me ask you something. The presidential election, for instance, how long does it take them to collect the results? Or even governorship that is at stake left?
Oh, that even makes it cheaper.
No. How long does it take?
Hey, but honestly, it is.
They even adjourn, then they go and sleep.
Yes. Have coffee.
I'll come back the next day.
Yes.
They probably say 11 a.m.
Yes.
And at that 11 a.m., they'll not be ready. They'll not say 2:30. Do you understand?
Until night comes when they pronounce the
results.
results.
Managing it. So if you say everything will be on the same day, you are actually give them reason where they say, the workload is too heavy now. The workload that before it used to take a week to bring this result, because it's now what will take 1 month. So will it be saving money?
Just that's why I was pushing. When you raised the matter of IT,
yeah,
I said, can't we really put pressure on National Assembly for electronic voting? You vote, your vote goes. All this carrying from ballot box to collection center, which is the very cause of all the disputations over figures, cancellations, signature. We can do away with them. If we are going to save costs, if we are going to do it in one day, just enter your machine, press, bang, bang, you go away.
See, when you deploy the right
Technology,
security apparatus in place that can stop election rigging, because these things are just designed for easier election rigging to some extent. Everything is done the same day, so everybody is there, too much confusion, or do you understand? But if you have the right security people in place and they can rig elections, then they will sit up and say, how would this thing work? I was expecting them, the proposers of these people,
yes,
to say,
that's a representative.
To say, look, we have an emergency here. The emergency is INEC. We have to make INEC work. We have to equip them, we have to give them everything that make them deliver results. That should be their priority. But they won't do that, most of them. Because if they do it, they can come back, some of them. Because if you equip INEC and make them function independent, and they ought to be, have somebody who is good come in, who doesn't care. If you can't allow him to do his job, he will leave and get somewhere. You don't go and find somebody who probably they have 2 years left on their career, so they say this is retirement position for them. That's what I expected them to say. Please, the whole Nigeria come, we need to have credible election. What do we need to do? The moment that is settled, from their views and opinion, if they say, okay, let's have all the whole elections in one day, the idea should come from them. And then why are you doing how many bills in one day? all those bills being passed in money? What's the purpose?
No, I don't.
Public hearing.
This is our own part of the public hearing. Before they go into the public hearing, let's continue the interrogation of these bills and different Nigerians.
So this is not an issue whether we do election. After all, I gave you an example. Imo State was the only state in Southeast they had the election. How smoothly did it go? Kogi State, Even if they do senatorial by-election, so you will expect, okay, this is a smaller election. They will put all their tables. So why? It's the operators. It's the operators. Yeah. So we need to just...
Okay, funding, very important. There's something that you have not touched. I'm leaving it and funding, and that is the media. What will be the media be doing in all of this? In this structure? Let me repeat your structure. A good election manager, lawyers for compliance, security expert, IT, public administrator, media. What will media be doing here?
Voters' education is not something you will have somebody come to say, oh, every time you call TV, say he's the commissioner for voters' education. No. Something must be in place where people like you, other agencies everywhere, you work as part of that support team.
And they provide information.
Yes, provide information. You say, this is what we're hearing, this is what people are thinking here, this is where you're failing. Like a feedback, you have a relationship. Of course, it will cost them money. That's why I said they need the money. So they go to a place like my village, Abreba, they put people on ground, a reporter.
Abreba?
Yes, that's so you distribute these people around. But you can't just rely once in a while. You go to the main media, maybe you go to Arise again.
Once in a while.
The man will call town hall meeting and say, this is how we're going to use beavers, all those things. No, people should be aware of it at a local level. So the media is very, very important. It's an integral part of the whole system. You put these things in order like this, you're ready to go. You find out that's where the cost will come.
Yeah.
That's where the cost comes. Because you invested in Beavers IREB. It's just insignificant part of the IT, what the IT department needs. What do you mean to transmit results? To do this thing. We have people that can build out any platform they need, any network. And we build it because they love Nigeria, they're Nigerians. It doesn't matter, there are a lot of them. And it's even easier because most of these people they are Yorubas, they are Igbos, so they're all former parts of Nigeria. They're there in the US. You go and get them. Call a meeting.
Well, as the House of Representatives prepares to have its public hearing on some of these bills, we here will continue interrogating them and getting Nigerians to come on. By the way, you can now join us on channel 201 on SLTV. We are just very proud to be reaching you right in your homes. 246, channel 246. My producer says, my friend, don't be in a hurry. It is channel 246. Channel 246 on SLTV. And we're also going to devise a mechanism for getting the feedback from you. As this conversation goes, we'll also be getting your feedback so that we make such feedback available to those who ought to be following us on these programs. My producer says, don't overshoot. I'll behave myself. I'll behave like a decent gentleman this morning, because also Charles Ude, my guest, is a gentleman. In the past 55 minutes or so, we've been conversing on another bill in the House of Representatives seeking to collapse all these elections in one day. Presidential election, Senate, House of Representatives, governorship, State Assembly, all in one day. And the argument has been, it will save costs. 2, it will reduce manipulation. 3, it will make timely release of election results. And maybe attend to some other ancillary challenges as contained in the present structure. But my guest Charles Ude says it is a road to nowhere. That in fact the point at issue is the restructuring and management of the Independent National Electoral Commission, the agency that conducts elections in Nigeria. The point is made is that election should be seen as a project. That project should have a good project manager. And that means the agency must be headed by an expert who understands election management. That is not a matter of you're not an intellectual or you're not a political scientist. That is not disagreeing with the competence or incompetence of professors of political science. But that the issue of election management is a skill that is not domiciled in the classroom. You need to know it, you need to understand it, you need to know how to operate it. And therefore, first step, change the method of appointment, go for an election manager. Issue number one. Number two, that election is a process with rules and regulations as contained in the Constitution and the Electoral Act. Therefore, you need lawyers who will make sure of compliance with the rules and regulations. If you step aside, if you take the wrong step, they show you the way out. The way it's going now, people do what they like. Number three, security experts. Then the IT, public administrator to put all these things together. And then Charles says, you need me in the media to keep telling the public what's going on. Let me, on your behalf, thank Charles for coming to the conversation this morning, Charles.
Thank you so
for
much.
coming to the program.
Thank you.
And that's why we end today's edition of this program and this week's editions, except the weekend shows of Saturday and Sunday. I won't be here with you. I'll be here on Monday. My name is Mwabos Njok. Please enjoy your weekend and have a great day.